everyone, it's Vanessa, V. Welcome to my channel where we discuss reigning over your life, conquering what's holding you back, and living life in victory each day using simplified strategies that work for you. Today, we are going to be addressing the quarantine blues. Blah. It sucks. So I really just want to focus on the strategies and solutions that I've had to learn throughout my years of dealing with my own isolation due to my post-traumatic stress disorder and all the other stuff that came with it, so that we can walk through this together happier, easier, and not have these negative effects last with us as we move out of this quarantine phase into more normalcy, whatever that's going to be. It's actually been really stressful for me in planning this video and in planning how I wanted to talk about this, because I really, just like so many of you, I just want to take it away. I want to give us all the cure-all, but unfortunately, we don't have that. So I'm sharing with you what really works for me, and I'm so hoping that this also really works for you too. And remember, they're always customizable to you. Really quickly, I'm not a mental health care professional or a healthcare professional. What I am is an actress and speaker, and I'm also living with post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm an expert in my own situation and what works for me, and my hope is to share what I've learned in hopes that it can help you just like it has for so many others. Oop. And before I forget, if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe to my channel. A lot of you might be thinking, quarantine is looking like it's starting to sort of phase out and we're gonna get back into more normal living. Or maybe you already have. But for those of us who are still in this quarantine situation, like myself, what's really great about what I'm going to share today is that these strategies aren't just for the quarantine, but they can actually help us not only ease out of this stage into more normal living, but also just help us further in future situations. Quarantine basically means isolation, and in this version of quarantine that we're all in together, as humans, just like our pets, we thrive on physical contact. Even if you're an introvert like me, I think I'm more of an extroverted introvert or an introverted extrovert, I'm not sure. But a huge part of me is absolutely an introvert. Either way, no matter who you are, quarantine and isolation still suck. And that isolation is causing our brains to be triggered in a negative way. Depending on the level of degree that you've had to deal with this quarantine in, maybe you haven't been able to see your family or friends in a really long time. Maybe you live alone, or you don't and you have a family or a spouse, but even still, you just miss that social interaction and that freedom of being able to get out and explore. Now, really quickly, with isolation, I want to mention the essential workers. Even though you may be around people on a daily basis, what you might be feeling emotionally or thinking mentally can make you feel isolated in those ways. And that's extremely valid as well. The strategies that I'm sharing today can also help you through that. So not only if you are a social person, but also if this quarantine is really disrupting your daily routine and your daily living, which it probably is, that's gonna cause some negative reactions. And it's totally valid and totally understandable. A lot of this can make us feel out of control, and that lack of control can cause us to not feel that great. So let's get into why really quickly. If you've seen my previous video about the brain under stress, awesome. If not, feel free to click the link below because I am going to touch on it just a little bit today. So, really quick, the brain loves control because control to the brain equals safety. Like I mentioned before, for a lot of us, our usual daily habits and our usual daily structure gave our brains a sense of comfort because structure equals control. It means there's less uncertainty. Therefore, your brain isn't getting triggered as much. We tend to be more comfortable. But because our brains are constantly looking for danger to keep us safe, the less control it feels we have, the less power it feels that we have, the more danger triggers are going to pop up. It's going to trigger that fight, flight, or freeze response, and our stress and anxiety is going to rise and cause us to have more stress and anxiety issues. All of these things make total sense. What do? Eat a pint of Ben & Jerry's and get to it. So what we're going to talk about today is focusing on what we can control and enjoying life in the here and now. And what's amazing is that we actually have this option. It's not just all negativity and gloom, which is really easy to focus on. There have been many periods throughout my life with post-traumatic stress disorder disorder, where I felt extreme periods of isolation. And for those of you out there who have health conditions, mental health issues, PTSD, you can also relate to that. And we've all sort of had to figure out what works for us. As much as I hated it, it just was what it was. But once I understood how valuable they were, how to make them work for me, and realized how helpful they actually were for me, they became things that I ended up leaning on, and I still lean on. And I'm really hoping that you find that too. So let's get started. One, what I found that I really need to do in times like this is to shift my thinking. There's usually two sides to a pancake, and if the quarantine COVID thing is a pancake, obviously one side is it's just horrible. What's the other side of the pancake that's gonna get me through this that's based in truth? So shifting my thinking from, yes, it's terrible. However, just because I've been forced into this giant pause period doesn't mean that I have to buy into how that feels. It's okay to feel those negative emotions, but I don't want them to control me or how I act. I'm not gonna let it drag me down. What are things that I can do to stop that from occurring? To not let it bleed into me or change the fabric of who I am? How can I still be me and still enjoy the life that I have right now, this gift, in a way that works for me, helps me rejuvenate, recover, come out better on the other side? Shifting our thinking from focusing on the negative, which is true, to the positive, which is also true. So if we have a choice between one or the two, putting our energy into focusing on the positive. And I don't just mean fluffy positive thinking, which can help. It's more about, how can I make this situation work for me? How can I, despite what's going on, still remain who I am and still have that joy and positivity? If you're finding that hard to do, that's okay. It takes practice and trust to be able to do that. And the great thing about this isn't just that, oh yay, I feel happier, but it's gonna help us bring this forward with us as life moves on. 2, open the windows. Let the sun shine in. As long as you don't have seasonal allergies, I have seasonal allergies, but I still open the windows. As long as that's cool with you, open the windows. Depending on the level of lockdown or quarantine that you're in, you may not feel comfortable going outside. If you feel comfortable opening the windows though, because we've been told that that's okay, letting in that air and that breeze is just beautiful. My husband did that the other day. He opened up all the windows and it literally felt like we were in a cabana at the ocean. It was a really windy day, but the smell of the flowers came in and it was so relaxing. So it was a simple thing we could do. We didn't have to put much thought into it, and it gave us that decreased stress and anxiety feeling. Start your day off great. Now this probably seems like duh, but I never realized actually how important and how impactful that was until I started doing it. And I think I just never put much stock into it because I didn't realize the importance of it. And Jubilee, what are you doing? You're in my shot. She is such a diva, isn't she? You're such a diva. Anyway, I just thought it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, eat your vegetables. But really, once I started doing it, that's when I saw the beauty of it. And it's actually something that I've done for years, and I do it every morning. I love coffee, but this is like my pre-gaming coffee, non-coffee. Basically, all it is just when we wake up, before we get out of bed, checking in with how we're feeling, addressing today's needs and what's going to happen, what we want to have happen. If we're not quite feeling 100% like ourselves, identifying what we can do to sort of balance ourselves out and get us back to feeling like the best you. Following our pre-quarantine routine in the morning, that way our brain is sort of like, oh, things are more like how they used to be. Things must be more safe, therefore I can chill out and not be as triggered as much. One reason that this is so effective is because it's actually setting up our brain to deal with the day. So if you think about it, if we don't prepare ourselves right as we wake up, and we just get out of bed, we go do stuff, blah, blah, blah. Especially in times of elevated stress where our brain is already like on extra alert during this quarantine and moving forward, but especially now, if we don't sort of help our brain prepare for the day, you might find that you're on edge a little bit more, or things tend to bother you more, or you're more moody, or experiencing more negative feelings or thinking, because your brain right from when it woke up was, okay, here we are again, scary situation, needs to be on high alert. I definitely plan to make a video or a few videos about this in the future, but I want to shine a light on this because of just how impactful it is. Move your body. Wah, wah. Okay, I know that probably sounds kind of obvious and maybe a little bit boring, and I'm definitely one of those people when I'm not feeling that great, especially emotionally. I just want to lay down. Love my PJs. I don't want to move. I don't want to do anything. I just want to turn the TV on, get into my pajamas, throw a blanket over me, and snuggle with my dogs and just forget everything that's going on. And that's okay if that's actually gonna help me feel better, and it usually does. But sometimes it actually has the opposite effect. And if that's you, if you're feeling a little unmotivated or in a slump, and when you lay down, you actually feel worse, getting up and moving can really, really help. Our bodies are machines. They want to move. They feel better when they move. We're getting the oxygen flowing through our blood, it's going into our brain, it's waking our brain up even more, and we're gonna start to feel a little bit more present when it's the right choice for us. It's an easy thing that you can do that you don't have to put much thought into. Obviously, working out can help. I work at a group fitness gym, and right now they're doing virtual classes, and so I find that really helpful. But you can also work out on your own. You can stretch, just keeping an eye on how much sitting we're doing. And we're gonna talk about a little things coming up where it involves moving, but you're also being productive. Nesting and tidying. They're slightly two different concepts, but I've found personally that doing both really does help. Now, I'm gonna say really quick about tidying. Tidying. I'm not talking about making it a chore and taking all afternoon to do this really horrible, boring thing. Instead, what I'm talking about is identifying things that might be triggering to your brain that you may not be in as safe as a space as you are in. So what clutter does to our brain is when things are out of order or stacked up around us, our brain goes, okay, there's not a lot of organization going on, I'm unsafe. I'm not talking about being absolutely perfectly organized and living in a sterile environment, because that's not fun or comforting. But what I am saying is just identifying things in our current environment that might be causing our brain to go, danger, and maybe putting that away. Nesting. Really quickly. That's basically making your home or your surroundings more comfortable and more inviting for you, because that's going to tell our brains, our subconscious brains, that we're in a safer space. So whatever that means for you, for me right now, if you're noticing the gray spots behind me on the walls, I am kind of nesting right now by picking out paint colors that I might want to paint the downstairs in. Am I gonna do it? I don't know. So I'm adding in things to my house, and I'm creating spaces in my house that feel more comforting and help my brain relax. And bonus, nesting can help you get up and move. Another thing that I found really helpful is writing down a worry list. Basically, just what that means is bullet pointing either in the morning, throughout the day, in the evening, or all of the above, worries that creep up in your mind, and not judging them. Now, that's not intended to make them feel worse. What it's actually doing is helping to release those worries from our brain, because they're not getting pent up inside, and we're not shoving them down and trying to keep them down. We're releasing that negative energy and the impact onto paper or onto our phones. Not only that, it's gonna help you have a better idea of just what is causing your stress and anxiety. I found that I go, oh, I didn't realize that was such a big deal to me. And then I'm able to address it, and then the impact of what was worrying me usually is dramatically diminished. Again, emotions are information. So when we pay attention, it can help a lot. I hate this one. I'm sure you hate this one, but I'm gonna say it anyway because it really, really works. It's a time for rejuvenation, recuperation, and growth. Looking for the lessons. Growing. What I mean is there are opportunities for growth that are specific to us. And when we use our time to find those things and to actively learn from them and grow, it actually helps us feel more productive. It helps the situation feel better. We feel like we have more control and we're better during it and moving out of it. Now, I know a lot of us hate that because it usually means that there's something uncomfortable that we're gonna have to face and walk through, and it's gonna be terrible, and I would just rather ignore it. But based on my experience, each time you will be surprised at the awesome things that come out of it. I've suffered from a lot of negative emotions throughout my life with my PTSD, but one thing that's always gotten me through was reminding myself that I have some sort of value to give. As I've said before, you have amazing qualities about you, you have worth, and you have value to give to others. So if any point in time you ever feel like, what's the point? Or I have nothing to give, or I'm worthless, that's not true. There are opportunities for you to be able to share who you are, and that matters. Some really quick ideas are reaching out to someone who you know might be extra isolated, volunteering virtually. There are still volunteer opportunities that we can all do online. I'll post a link to the one that I'm subscribed to below. Making masks for people to wear and adopting a pet. But again, customize it to you. What's gonna work for you and what do you have to offer? Some really quick, cool additional activities that you can do to help beat these quarantine blues are host a Netflix party, right? That's what it's called. My husband and I do one a couple times a week with our friends called Don't Drink Alone. We use Google Hangouts so we can see everybody, and we all watch really bad movies at the same time. Having a board game pen pal. In a few days, my husband is going to start playing Axis and Allies with one of his friends, and they're just gonna tell each other what their moves are, because that game takes forever. Having a coffee chat with friends. Pet your pets. She desperately needs a haircut. Do your nails. Doesn't matter who you are. Be a photographer and go around your house and just take some cool photos. Play around with it and then post them on Instagram, of course. Film a short movie on your phone. That's what I would be doing if I wasn't doing the videos. Dust off the jigsaw puzzles and go ahead and do them. Write a song. Learn a new language. I'm pretty sure Duolingo is free, so I will try and post a link below. Do good deeds like sending someone a random bouquet of flowers. Learn to dance. And lastly, something that I say is if you are depressed, it must be addressed. I have definitely dealt with depression before, and fortunately, because I never gave up, I was able to discover and learn and master strategies that worked for me that got me through that depression and still get me through times of when I'm feeling down. I'm gonna put a link below that has a list of some of the things that you can be experiencing if you're depressed. It's not something to be ashamed about, it's not something to hide. It's totally normal, especially in times like this. Don't hesitate to reach out to someone, especially a mental health care professional, and make sure that that person is someone that works with you and someone that you feel comfortable being around. And there you have it. Thank you so much for joining in today. I hope that you found these strategies really helpful, or at least inspiring to you to keep trying new things and figuring out how to make this whole situation work better for you. If you found anything in this video enlightening, feel free to comment below letting me know. Subscribe to my channel so you don't have to go looking for my videos. Like or dislike this video, it's cool either way. And remember, today is going to be an amazing day for you. Keep looking up, and I'll see you next time.